Hello and welcome back to the Crime Reel. Today we are looking at a case from Herne Bay in Kent, England. This case was suggested to me a while back by one of my subscribers, Julia369. This is a brutal case of violence against a helpless old lady, the outcome of which resulted in as many questions as it did answers. In 1986, 89-year-old Mabel Crandell lived alone in her bungalow in Station Road, Herne Bay. This is in Kent in the south of England. Her husband of many years, Henry, had passed away 4 years earlier. She had lived in Herne Bay since around 1976, and as the years passed she became ever more reclusive. She would occasionally be seen by her neighbours going out to do her shopping, but would never stop to speak more than a passing hello. Mabel did not let people into her home and kept the curtains drawn at all times. She was a tiny, frail lady, standing approximately 5 feet tall and weighing around 84 pounds, which is about 38 kilograms or 6 stone. On the morning of 1st of September 1986, a neighbour noticed smoke coming from Mabel's house. They called the fire brigade, who arrived at the scene at around 5 a.m. It was clear that the fire had started in the back bedroom, which was badly damaged, with the rest of the house remaining relatively intact, save for smoke damage. The firemen found Mabel's body in the hallway of her home. It was immediately clear that she had not died as a result of the fire. There was blood on the walls, and she had sustained multiple severe head injuries. Mabel was still dressed in her day clothes, not her nightwear, indicating that the attack had probably taken place during the day rather than overnight. The wardrobes and drawers in the house had been ransacked, and the police began working on the theory that this was a burglary that had escalated with fatal consequences. Mabel's post-mortem would conclude that someone had stamped on her face and neck in a brutal and savage attack. She had multiple fractures to her jaw, a broken nose, fractures to both cheekbones, severe bruising to her neck and hemorrhages in both of her eyes, which was consistent with someone stamping on her whilst wearing shoes or boots. Within a day it was reported that the police were seeking 2 young men to assist with their inquiries. The men, who were thought to be about 18 years old, had been disturbed by a nearby resident who had seen them acting suspiciously in a garden of a house at Cobblers Bridge Road at 1:30 a.m. on the morning of the fire. Cobblers Bridge Road was less than a mile from Mabel's house on Station Road. The men were described as being around 5 foot 6 inches tall. One had blonde hair and was carrying a red and white rucksack. The other had black hair and was wearing a green zip-up jacket. 2 men fitting these descriptions were also seen at around 4:45 a.m. that day, throwing things out of a container into a field. The police knew that the intruder or intruders had searched the bungalow, but it was unclear whether anything had been stolen. Petrol had been used to accelerate the fire in an attempt to destroy any evidence. Detective Superintendent David Tully, the East Kent Crime Coordinator, described the killing as a terrible and horrific attack on a defenceless elderly woman. The level of wickedness involved cannot be described. As 50 police officers conducted extensive house-to-house inquiries and a forensic examination of the bungalow and surrounding area was completed, it was revealed that the police had found more than £9,000 hidden in various items of furniture around Mabel's home. Another lead was soon reported. A petrol can containing around 1/4 gallon of petrol had been stolen from a nearby house around the time of the murder. The police were keen to locate this rusty Castrol GTX can. They began pursuing the theory that Mabel had been murdered on the Sunday and the attacker had returned to the house in the early hours of the Monday morning in order to set it alight. Inspector Cruttenden of the Kent Police said that Mabel would often set 2 teacups for herself and drink from them both, but at the time of her death there was a 3rd cup and saucer on the kitchen table. It is believed that she may have been expecting someone for lunch, something that was out of character for her. The crime was featured on Shaw Taylor's Police 5 TV programme in an attempt to jog memories, but the police were still unable to track the two young men or the petrol can. Additionally, the police had gathered information about a van seen parked outside Mabel's home on two separate occasions in the days before the murder. The van was described as a tatty transit type van, which was dark brown with lettering on the side and doors. The driver was described as being about 25 years old, average build with dark, wavy hair. It was believed that the man may have been a casual builder looking for work. Posters were displayed around Herne Bay, and a 4-minute video appealing for information was shown in department stores and television rental showrooms. The case was also featured on Crime Watch UK, which led to a flood of new phone calls. Nevertheless, all of the efforts came to nothing. The police believe that someone may have been shielding the killer due to a misplaced sense of loyalty, and the case went cold. By January 1987, it was reported that a cremation certificate had been issued by East Kent coroner Mr. Richard Sturt. He stated that, "I feel inquiries have gone as far as they can for the moment," adding that he issued the cremation certificate with some misgivings, as if there had been a charge of murder, the defence could ask for a further post-mortem examination. With the police investigation scaled back, it seemed unlikely that Mabel's killer would ever be caught. However, in December 1989, over 3 years after the attack, it was revealed that a man had been charged with Mabel's murder. 43-year-old Trevor Wickens from Aylesford, near Maidstone, also in Kent. Trevor said that he was completely innocent of the charges. When Trevor's trial began, the prosecution's case was based around the testimony of two of Trevor's ex-wives. Trevor's second wife, Jennifer, testified that around 8:30 p.m. on Sunday the 31st of August 1986, Trevor had arrived at home dirty, blood-stained and dishevelled. He told her how he had done something really dreadful. She went on to describe how Trevor told her that he had gone to a bungalow in Station Road on the evening of Saturday the 30th. At the time, he was in a drunken state and believed that the bungalow was empty. As he searched the property, he was disturbed by an old lady who was wearing a nightgown and cardigan, who threatened him with a kitchen implement. He went over to her and started to hit her to shut her up. Jennifer went on to say that Trevor took a petrol can from her shed on the Sunday evening, returned to the bungalow and set it on fire, then filled the can with stones and threw it into a lake. Jennifer said that she begged Trevor to make an anonymous call for an ambulance, but Trevor replied that there was no point, as there was no way that the woman had survived. Trevor then threatened Jennifer and her new husband, Tom, saying that if they told anyone, he would come back and kill them and their children. She recalled that he stayed for about 3 days and did not leave the house. I fed him. He continually watched the television news. Jennifer claimed that it was worry and fear that prevented her going to the police at the time. She saw a newspaper article that someone else had made a deathbed confession about the murder. It prompted her to go to the police, as she did not want someone else's parents to believe that their son, who had just died, was a murderer. Trevor's third wife, Dawn Martin, also testified. She told the court that Trevor had told her he was responsible for the murder of an old lady in Herne Bay, which she took to mean Mabel Crandell. She later confided in the Samaritans, a charity which offers a safe place for people in distress to talk things through, but did not report it to the police as she was unsure whether or not it was true, as they had both been drinking at the time of this confession. Trevor's defence team attempted to undermine these confessions, adding that there was no evidence that Trevor committed the crime other than these alleged confessions. Trevor denied ever having visited the bungalow, denied killing Mabel, denied making his confessions to his ex-wives, and denied threatening to hurt his ex-wife's new partner and children, adding, "Have you ever seen Tom? He's twice my size." Trevor admitted to being in trouble with the police in the past for burglary, criminal damage, and drunken disorderly conduct, and said that he had always admitted to whatever he had done, but on this occasion he was innocent. When the jury returned their 11-1 verdict after 4 hours of deliberations, Trevor shook his head in disbelief as he was found guilty of Mabel's murder and sentenced to life in prison. He then appealed his case, and when he eventually exhausted all of his rights to appeal, the case then was taken to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, who initially refused to reassess it. After lengthy legal wranglings, the CCRC eventually relented and Trevor's case was reviewed. This was mainly on the basis of the timeline of events. The witness accounts at trial suggested that the murder occurred late on the Saturday evening, but evidence at the scene and pathological evidence suggested it occurred late on Sunday afternoon. Statements from the pathologist about the time of death that were inconsistent with the supposed confession were not disclosed to the jury at trial, and neither was a confession from another man on the basis that it amounted to hearsay. Whilst the time of death based on the condition of Mabel's body was the subject of some disagreement, other non-medical evidence indicated that she was killed during the day. When she was found, she was in her day clothes, not nightwear. A partially prepared meal was found in the kitchen, and a carving fork was discovered near her body, suggesting that she had been preparing that meal when she was attacked. Additionally, her bed was neatly made and undisturbed when she was found. Following a 3-day hearing, the Court of Appeal ruled that Trevor's conviction was unsafe and as such was quashed. On the 17th of June 2003, Trevor walked free from the Court of Appeal, saying that he wanted to go home and get on with his life. As an innocent man, I have lost 13.5 years spent in prison for something that I did not do. He received £750,000 in compensation. How far he was able to rebuild his life is unclear, and he has subsequently since passed away. No one else has ever been tried for Mabel's murder. That concludes today's case. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel. Please add any comments, click like. Petty crime time now. Jo has sent in about her cat, Slendy, which is short for Slender Man. He's 10 years old.
Slendy!
And was a great friend of Jo's 99-year-old grandmother.
I'm not letting you outside. You got shot.
9 years ago, Slendy was shot by a BB gun and had a major operation to remove the pellet from his stomach. Moving on 9 years now, Slendy is doing fine and chatting away to Jo regularly. Slendy is known as being a real pillow thief. More petty crime next time. Thank you for listening to The Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye. Psst, couple of facts about Herne Bay. The author, P.G. Wodehouse, in his Jeeves and Wooster novels, Jeeves always used to holiday in Herne Bay. Another Herne Bay fact, the amazing British pilot Amy Johnson bailed out of her aircraft and disappeared in the Thames estuary near Herne Bay. Goodbye.